The derelict had fallen from the sky on a Tuesday. Maya remembered because she'd been defending her dissertation on exotic matter propulsion when the news broke. Every screen in the physics department had lit up simultaneously. An object, roughly 2 kilometers long, had punched through the atmosphere over the Mojave Desert and buried itself 300 meters deep without detonating, burning, or even slowing down in any way that made thermodynamic sense. 7 years later, she stood in the heart of that same object, now designated XC1, watching William trace his fingers along symbols that still defied translation. "The power coupling is degrading again," William said, not looking up from his workstation. His reflection ghosted across the alien metal, a surface that absorbed 99% of visible light but somehow still reflected human faces. "We're pulling 847 terawatts through a system designed for. We still don't know what it was designed for." Maya pulled up the latest readings on her tablet. The numbers made her stomach tighten. "The gravitational lensing is holding steady. That's what matters." "That's what matters for the weapon," William corrected, "not for understanding what this thing actually was." They'd had this argument before. Maya believed XC1 was a prototype, abandoned when its creators realized it wouldn't work. William thought it was a garbage scow, literally dumped on Earth because the aliens couldn't figure out how to safely dispose of it. The truth was, 7 years of study by humanity's brightest minds had barely scratched the surface of the technology embedded in the vessel's crystalline architecture. What they did know: the ship contained a functional gravity manipulation system unlike anything in human physics, something that could bend spacetime itself into a lens, focusing and amplifying forces in ways that violated every conservation law they'd previously considered absolute. And 3 months ago, when the visitors had returned, humanity had learned exactly how badly they needed a weapon that violated conservation laws. "Status update," Maya said, tapping her comm. "Central Command, this is Research Station XC1, beginning pre-activation sequence for Project Longshot." The response crackled back immediately. "Confirmed, XC1. You are go for pre-activation. Enemy vessels holding position at Luna Orbital. No change in their stance." The visitors hadn't communicated, hadn't attacked. They'd simply arrived in Earth orbit 3 months ago, parked 17 massive ships around the moon, and waited. Every attempt at communication had been ignored. Every probe sent their direction had been vaporized the moment it crossed an invisible boundary roughly 380,000 kilometers from Earth. The message was clear. Humanity was being given time to prepare for something. What that something was, nobody knew. William pulled up a holographic schematic of XC1's power distribution network. "I still think we're missing something fundamental about how this ship failed. Look at this." He expanded a section showing the gravity lens apparatus. "Every simulation suggests this configuration should work perfectly. So why did the original builders abandon it?" "Maybe they didn't have the courage to use it," Maya said quietly. The gravity lens was beautiful in its terrible simplicity. It created a focused distortion in spacetime that could amplify kinetic energy by a factor of 10,000. Fire a projectile through it at sufficient velocity, and the lens would squeeze that projectile down to a point of infinite density for exactly 0.00034 seconds, long enough to punch through anything, including the fabric of reality itself. The problem was collateral damage. Their models suggested that firing Project Longshot would create a gravitational shockwave that would sterilize everything within 1,000 kilometers of the beam path. On Earth, that would mean millions of deaths. In space, aimed at the visitors' ships near the moon, it might just work without hitting Earth with the backwash. "Might." 97% of pre-activation checks complete, William announced. His voice was steady, professional. Only Maya knew him well enough to hear the tremor underneath. "Maya, I need you to look at something." He pulled up a new data stream, one Maya didn't recognize. I've been running deep scans on the ship's memory systems. Most of it is still locked, but I found something in a buffer cache. It's a partial log entry. The symbols scrolled across his screen. After 7 years, Maya had learned enough of the alien script to recognize certain patterns. Her blood ran cold as she parsed the meaning. "That's a countdown," she whispered. "A countdown that ended 847 years ago," William confirmed. "Whatever XC-1 was supposed to do, it was supposed to do it almost a millennium before it crashed on Earth." Maya's mind raced. A failed weapon, a missed deadline, and aliens who'd simply dumped their broken prototype on a random planet rather than safely dismantling technology this dangerous. "Pull the full buffer," she ordered. "Everything you can extract." For the next 20 minutes they worked in silence, assembling fragments of data like archaeological shards. Slowly, a picture emerged. XC-1 hadn't been abandoned because it failed. It had been abandoned because it succeeded once. The gravitational lens had worked exactly as designed, destroying a target whose designation translated roughly as existential threat Omega. But the weapon had also created a cascading gravitational anomaly that had destabilized an entire star system. 3 planets, billions of lives. The builders of XC-1 had won their war and lost everything else. "Central Command needs to see this," William said. Maya's hand hovered over her comm, then stopped. "What do we tell them? That the weapon we've built from alien garbage is the same weapon that destroyed the civilization that built it. We tell them the truth. We tell them what happens when you use technology you don't fully understand." But before Maya could respond, every alarm in the facility began screaming simultaneously. The holographic displays erupted with urgent messages from Central Command. "All stations, this is Central Command. Visitor vessels are moving. Repeat, all 17 vessels are breaking lunar orbit and accelerating toward Earth. Impact in 47 minutes. Project Longshot is authorized. Repeat, Longshot is authorized. Fire at will." Maya and William locked eyes. 47 minutes. Not enough time to explain. Not enough time to debate. Barely enough time to complete activation. "We don't have a choice," Maya said. "We always have a choice," William replied. But his hands were already moving across his console, bringing the gravity lens online. The ship began to hum, a sound that Maya felt in her bones rather than heard. Deep within XC-1's alien architecture, forces that predated human civilization began to wake. The gravity lens unfurled like a flower made of folded spacetime, reaching out into the void. Maya initiated the targeting solution. The visitors' ships were already crossing Mars' orbital, moving fast, too fast. "William," she said softly, "if we fire this and it does to Earth what it did to them, then we'll have proven that humanity learned nothing from finding this ship," he finished. "We'll have repeated their mistake." The countdown reached final activation. Maya's finger rested on the firing authorization. Through the facility's reinforced windows, she could see the Mojave Desert stretching to the horizon. Somewhere beyond it, her sister was probably putting her kids to bed. Millions of people living ordinary lives, unaware that their existence balanced on a decision being made in an alien tomb. "There has to be another way," William said desperately. "Some other configuration, some other." And then Maya saw it. In the alien logs buried in the fragments William had extracted, a second entry logged after the catastrophe, a modification to the lens parameters, a safeguard. "They fixed it," she breathed. "After the disaster, they figured out how to limit the cascade. The design we're using, it's the updated version." "Are you certain?" Maya studied the equations, her mind translating alien mathematics into familiar forms. The modification was elegant, brilliant. It added a dampening field that would contain the gravitational shockwave, preventing the cascade that had destroyed a star system. If the math was right. if she was reading it correctly. If the aliens who dumped this ship on Earth hadn't simply decided the modification was too dangerous to trust. 90% certain, Maya said. 90%, William repeated, against the extinction of the human race. The timer hit 0, the authorization window opened, and Maya made a choice. She fired. Project Longshot screamed to life. The gravity lens focused all its terrible power into a beam of compressed spacetime that lanced across 380,000 kilometers in less than a second. The visitor's lead ship crumpled like paper around the impact point, folding in on itself until it simply stopped existing. The gravitational shockwave rolled outward and stopped. The dampening field held. The cascade didn't form. The alien safeguard worked exactly as its designers had intended 8 centuries after they'd written it. 16 more times Maya fired. 16 more times the lens focused and the dampening field contained. And when the last visitor ship tumbled as a dead hulk toward the lunar surface, Earth was still intact. In the silence that followed, William turned to Maya. We just weaponized someone else's trauma. No, Maya said, watching the data streams confirm Earth's safety. We learned from it, that's different. But as the facility erupted in celebration around them, both scientists stood quiet in the heart of XC-1, wondering what the builders of this ship would think, if they still existed somewhere among the stars, knowing that humanity had succeeded where they had first failed, and wondering if that success would teach Earth wisdom, or merely give it confidence to make newer, more terrible mistakes.